What's up guys, it's Alex here, your friendly Reef Dog. Now it's been about 4 months since I've updated you on the progress of my Red Sea Reefer Peninsula 500, so today I'm going to give you a proper update. I'm going to show you around the tank and I'm going to show you what my sump is looking like now, and I can tell you that it is looking pretty busy. I'm also going to put an orange lens on the camera so you can see what it looks like under blue lights and when I wear these glasses. Now these are DD Aquarium Solutions orange glasses, which you should be able to get from your local fish shop. If you don't have a pair, I'd highly recommend them. They make your corals look awesome. Now if it's your first time here at the channel, I put out a video every week with tips on how to set up and maintain an awesome reef tank. So make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss out on anything. Right, let's get stuck in. Since my last update, I've swapped out my T5 LED hybrid for a complete LED setup with two Evergrow IT5012s and an Orphec OR3 Blue Plus bar. I've done a video explaining why I changed and giving my thoughts on the Evergrows that I'll link at the top of the screen. But quite simply, these shots under blue lights show you why I did it. At 2.5 years old, this tank is now packed full of coral, and it glows like Chernobyl in winter when the blue lights come on. And while the corals don't look quite as day glow to the eye as they do on camera, it's genuinely not far off. Now this is the first time I've done a tank update under such heavy blue lights, and I usually prefer to shoot under a much whiter light, but I'd be really interested to know what you guys think. Do you prefer these updates with shots like these, or do you prefer to see the tank under a whiter light? Or maybe a combination of the two? Let me know in the comment section below. At my last update, I was trying to use carbon dosing to control my nitrates and phosphates. I used Tropic Marine Elimi NP, but all it did was strip out my nitrates until they got to 0, which gave me a mini outbreak of what I think might have been dinoflagellates. So I stopped dosing the Elimi NP and switched back to Roaphos to control my phosphate. I got my nitrate level back up by feeding more, and the dinos went away pretty quickly, with the Roaphos keeping my phosphate in check. So I personally won't be going back to carbon dosing anytime soon. I've also added a new rock tower that I bought from R&R Aquascapes, the company behind the aquascape for Aaron's Aquariums tank. My scape is generally quite low, so this has given me somewhere to put some nice highlight demand corals. I have a Heart of the Sea orange aquapora and a Rainbury bluebell aquapora, both of which are from Eurocorals, and the pièce de résistance, a Jason Fox homewrecker. The homewrecker is already starting to show some stunning colours, and I can't wait till it grows out and matures. I've never really been into super high-end SPS like that, but I'm a total convert now, and when this thing is grown out, it will be the most spectacular coral in my tank bar none. And if you don't know what a Jason Fox homewrecker is, put it into Google and be prepared to have your socks blown off. Last time out, I also mentioned I'd be looking into buying a Scoly. Well, Mama Reef Dog didn't raise her no liar, and I now have this lovely war paint Scoly. Now Scollies are very expensive, but I haven't won the lottery. This actually only cost me £60 instead of the typical £200+ price tag. And that's because in the shop, it looked like this. It was completely receded and really thin. But I've often read that Scollies make great recovery projects because they're so hardy, so I decided it was worth a punt. I started by putting it in a low light area of my Sump frag tank so it wouldn't get nibbled by my foxface or any of my shrimp. I then fed it with Red Sea Reef Energy AB+ every day, and it slowly recovered. I only fed it directly once a week. The rest of the time I added Reef Energy to the tank and let the chips fall where they may. Now if you've seen the Red Sea tips and tricks video, you will have seen the way Scollies can react to a good feeding. It's pretty awesome, and I've wanted to give this a go myself ever since I saw it. Now given this Scoly is still in recovery, I didn't quite get such a spectacular show, and to the naked eye I didn't even realise it was moving. It was only recording this as a hyperlapse video that showed me what's going on. But it is really cool to watch, and I'd recommend you giving it a go if you have a Scoly. While I'm delighted the Scoly is recovering, I wouldn't mind betting it will take a lot longer to fully recover. From scratch, I'd expect a Scoly to take 6 to 12 months to return to full health, but if you have the patience and reasonable water quality, it's a really satisfying project to take on. Away from corals, I've also bought 2 new fish. First is a second ruby red dragonet. I've had a male for a little under a year now, and I know from looking at my Sump frag tank that I have an abundance of copepods, so I wasn't too concerned about the availability of food for this notoriously fussy eater. And I decided to add a female after being reassured that aggression is probably unlikely. Now they've only been together for a couple of weeks, so it's far too soon to call this a win, but they seem to get on like a house on fire. It's awesome watching them scoot around together, and the male seems genuinely excited to have some female company, which is understandable, seeing as he hasn't had any action for a year. When dragonets mate, they do mid-water dances together as a little display. Now I haven't seen these two doing it as yet, but I'm really looking forward to seeing that happen, and it's that sort of natural behaviour that makes this hobby so wondrous and magical for me. I also bought a hell freaky firefish, and it's fair to say he's being pretty secretive. He's only little, so he's pretty timid, and I only see him for a few seconds a day at feeding time. Now I'm not a massive fan of firefish generally, but the hell freaky has stunning colours that you don't see in other fish. That does make them quite expensive, but I traded half a dozen coral frags with my local fish shop, which made the price more bearable. But of course it's not all red wine and roses in the tank, and I still have a bit of an Aiptasia problem. I've tried a filefish and peppermint shrimp to no effect, and I'm now considering another copper-banded butterfly, much against my better judgment. The apps are fairly isolated and not really causing a problem, but I'd like to get on top of them to stop them spreading. I've also continued to pull out some of my faster growing corals, and I've now removed 7 large colonies, which has freed up a bit of swimming space for my fish, as well as the possibility of a little more coral real estate. Although the truth is that this tank is now full, so I probably shouldn't buy any more corals. But we all know that's not going to happen, and I've got my eye on a nice Australian torch coral. I just need to find one at a reasonable price, or sell a load more frags, or maybe a kidney, so watch this space. Finally then, I'll give you a quick glimpse of the good stuff. My sump. It's looking pretty busy now, but it's still reasonably simple. I have an automatic filter roller for water clarity and to remove any food the fish miss. Then a skimmer and a Kato bed to keep my nitrates in check, and a RoaPhos reactor to take care of phosphates. The white canister in the centre of the screen is a CO2 scrubber. The CO2 scrubber should increase my pH level, which BRS TV says is a great way to increase coral growth. Now my pH level is usually around 8 to 8.3 anyway, so to be honest it's probably not necessary, but I'm interested to see what the fuss about and whether it actually makes a significant difference. Aside from that, I now have 2 UV sterilisers on the far right of the cabinet, the purpose of which is to keep any fish parasites at bay. And then there's my frag tank of course, which I've done a separate video on. I do place a fresh bag of activated carbon in the sump once a month to help with water clarity, but that's about it. Now I'm sure this will look far from simple to some of you, but remember this is to support a heavily stocked and mature tank with some of the most delicate corals in the hobby. If I was setting up afresh, a skimmer and a RoaPhos reactor would probably be all I'd need, maybe a Kato bed thrown in for good measure. So don't be put off when you see busy sumps, it doesn't have to be complicated, and there are plenty of awesome tanks out there that run basic filtration and still have great success. And I'll link a card at the top of the screen for a stunning example of just such a tank. Now although the tank is pretty much full, I do still have plenty of future plans and I'm forever tinkering with the tank. In particular, I'm still after a Japanese masked swallowtail angel. Now I've actually had several messages from you guys from around the country telling me when you think you've seen one in the shop, and I absolutely love having an army of people out there trying to find me one. I'm also going to start dosing trace elements, and I think I'm going to go down the Red Sea Coral Colours program. So if you want to see how I get on, make sure you subscribe for future videos, and if you enjoyed this one, give me a thumbs up and leave a comment if you've got any questions. Until next time then, happy reefing.